Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Quick public service announcement. The slide up here is right. We are here to talk about bot design and some success we've had at a few of our customers. If you're here for the Bing Maps presentation, that got moved to the International DF. So nobody here for Bing? Okay, awesome.
Well, nobody left.
Nobody left. That was your big opportunity to get up and leave. Oh, would you look at the time?
And if you stay to the end, there's a timeshare offer for you.
Right. So for a quick show of hands, many people here developed with bots. Have you used our bot framework in our cognitive services? Okay. A little under half the room. Six, yeah, okay. So just to do some quick context setting on how we're going to run, we're going to start the conversation high level, talk about some of the capabilities in the Microsoft AI platform. Then Robert's going to do a demo and show you quickly how to spin up and build a couple of bots with intelligence. And then we'll dive into some specifics around some customer scenarios and customer stories. Okay, so Microsoft AI platform, probably a lot of people have seen this slide and recognize it from Keynote. It's really a set of services and capabilities that we offer across Azure. So you've got components of our AI service framework, AI tools, coding management tools, capabilities with deep learning frameworks like CNTK, TensorFlow, as well as the Azure infrastructure that then supports the capabilities and provides the real power that makes the AI and the cognitive services work. Our AI services that we're going to dive into more deeply today are Bot Framework. This is an open source SDK that we offer. It is right now in C# and Node.js. And this is your simple toolkit that allows you to quickly and easily spin up a bot and get a shell of a working solution. It enables a number of conversational canvases. We'll dive into that, so you don't have to redevelop your bot for every conversational channel. If you want a Facebook bot, a Skype bot, a web channel bot, you develop it once, click on the template, and you've got your bot available in those multiple conversational channels. You add code to your bot, you layer on cognitive services, that gives it some intelligence, and we also support API integration, so you can fairly seamlessly integrate with any backend systems that you're interested in to provide additional knowledge, and also allow your bot to provide, conduct and perform tasks on a user's behalf. Again, the cognitive services, this is where we make our bot smart, capabilities across vision, speech, language understanding, translation, knowledge management. We'll go a little bit more deeply into those. And then Azure Machine Learning, where we can really take some of the capabilities of the out-of-the-box cognitive services like computer vision, which can do some very already out-of-the-box great object identification. I can tell if it's a flower, a cat, a person standing there. You can layer on something like an ML model with CNTK, and now you can start identifying very specifically and granularly objects within a refrigerator. Tell the difference in a picture between a tomato and a red pepper and a bottle of milk, right? You can also add ML models to your bots and your bot solutions to do things like infuse some predictive analytics and even additional intelligence on the information that the bot is receiving. Okay. Go for it.
Thanks, Cindy. The cognitive services, I believe there are about 30 different cognitive services that you can take advantage of in your applications, not just bots, of course, although that's probably my favorite one since I work on the bot framework team. The cognitive services, they cover a whole range of different possibilities. As Cindy already mentioned with vision, and then there's speech for speech recognition, speaker recognition also, video indexing, knowledge APIs. Some of the examples that I've worked with already are, there is an application that we're working with to identify the Syrian immigrants that are coming into various countries into Europe to basically help manage that influx of people into the various countries in Europe. It uses things like facial recognition and identity detection and stuff like that. And this is done by a humanitarian organization. So that's really cool. When you take advantage of cognitive services in your applications, you're letting the service do the AI heavy lifting for you, which is a great way to add all of these amazing possibilities kind of right out of the box by consuming the libraries and the services. So when we talk about bots and these AI apps, I usually get really deep into the technology, don't I?
Yes.
And so that's kind of the thing that I like to talk about the most, that third point of machine-powered intelligence. But when we're talking about these things, we need to start with the customer, what the customer expects, and what our business is going to provide for them, and how we want our business to be perceived. So we're going to talk about that in addition to the cool stuff that cognitive services can do. I just want to set your expectations for where we're going with this amazing study that we'll talk about in a little bit. So what's a bot? I've already talked about bot framework twice today, so if you came to either one of those sessions, thanks very much. And I apologize, you're going to see this for the millionth time. A bot is an app with conversation capabilities. It's a conversational app. With a bot framework, bots are web apps. So you build your bot, it's a web app, it can do what web apps do. So it can connect to third-party services or your services, databases, and so on, just like a web app. But the difference is that a bot's UI is not so much point and click as it is conversation. So it has a turn. It's like a turn-based. If you ever played the old Dungeons and Dragons, it's like you take turns. So you talk to the bot and the bot talks back to you, or you tell the bot something and the bot tells you something. So in the bot framework, we look at a bot as a collection of things. There's your code, which is the bot itself, which you build with the Bot Builder SDK or the Azure Bot Service. There are our platform services provided by the bot framework, which is how you connect it to channels, which is where your users are, as Cindy mentioned, with Facebook and Skype and Microsoft Teams and many others. There's the HTTP REST endpoint, which we call the bot connector, and you can call that API directly from another application that isn't built with the Bot Builder SDK. So you could build your own bots in your own programming languages with your own needs by just calling that REST endpoint. Well, but that's how you do it. So as I mentioned, the bot framework provides what you need to build bots. At the core, it's three things. It's the support for channels, so making your bot available in the applications that your customers and users use the most. Facebook Messenger, for example, if you have a Facebook page, you can create a messenger bot, connect it to your page, and people can come to your page and ask your bot questions about your business or about your page. It provides hosting services. That is what I was mentioning earlier about the connector, which is the bot framework service that facilitates the exchange of messages between the bot and the user. So you can think of it as the bot is running as a web app, and it has a conversational interface. The user types something into the bot. It's sent up to the connector service. The connector service figures out what's going on and sends back to the bot so the bot can tell the user what they need or want to know. And then, of course, the bot framework tools with the SDK for .NET, the SDK for Node.js, the emulator, documentation, and samples. So the cognitive services come into the conversation when we're talking about bots a lot. I like to say that bots are the user experience for AI. I was talking to Gary, with some friend of mine here, about this earlier in the booth, because when you're using AI in applications all the time, I mean, our smartphones are chock full of it. Anytime you're using GPS, I mean, machine learning is everywhere, but you don't think about it. You don't think about you're touching or you're interacting with AI. But when people use bots, that's what they feel. And they prefer that feeling. They like feeling like they're talking to artificial intelligence more than they do people, even though the experience that the bot provides simulates or emulates an exchange with an actual person, and that's what we strive for the most. People still like the fact that it's a bot. And so when you're talking about the things like computer vision and Lewis and all of that stuff, people they like the feeling of interacting with something that is new and on the edge that they otherwise, it's invisible to them and they take for granted, which I think is kind of interesting. 5 years from now, I probably won't say that because it'll be so pervasive that like quantum computing. I mean, right now it seems just so crazy, but here we go. So when I talk about bots, and I said what the core of the bot framework is, bots, they don't do anything. They're not intelligent out of the box. You get a way to send messages between the bot and the user, and you get a way to show those messages to the user. And that's what you do with building bots. Just like your web apps aren't intelligent out of the box, or your universal Windows apps. So you have to add that intelligence in some way, and you have to do that in a meaningful way. You don't want to just load up your shotgun of cognitive services and pull the trigger, and then kablam, everything is in the bot, and it does everything under the sun. But you want to think about what kind of intelligence that your bot is taking advantage of for the user. So I'm going to talk about and show you a bot that my colleague Luc Vauvin in France and I developed earlier this summer. This is not a real-world scenario. I just want to set your expectations correct, because what we're doing in this is showing the capabilities of various cognitive services. And it's got a certain wow factor to it that really shows what's possible. But I just want to set your expectations. This is not the retail bot. We'll get to that in a little bit. So let me figure out, how do we, is it 6?
You are on 6, yes.
6, thanks, Cindy. So here's my bot. It's amazing, isn't it? No, so I'm just going to say hi. And what this bot does is, so I travel to Europe. I was traveling to Europe quite a bit for business, and I would squeeze in as much tourism as I could between meetings. And I would take a picture of a bunch of things, and then later, especially in Berlin, I didn't really know what it was I'd taken a picture of. I didn't have the location awareness turned on my Android phone, and I remember one was Humboldt University, and I couldn't remember that. And there were lots of signs in German that I couldn't understand. So when I got home, I'd ask my friends, or back to my hotel, I'd ask my friends what those signs said. So Luke and I were talking about this scenario, and we created this monument spot. So this is going to tell us about interesting monuments in Europe. So I'm going to say, oops, Eiffel Tower. So I put Eiffel Tower, and it shows me from Wikipedia something about the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty. Okay, so that's kind of cool. What we're doing here is we have a Lewis model, and we've trained the Lewis model with information about the monuments, the points of interest. We have the various monuments that we support in the spot loaded into the model. We have the various intents. They're very simple, asking about monuments and getting directions to them from Las Vegas specifically. So back in the bot, there's a lot going on here that may not be obvious. What's happening is when you ask for Statue of Liberty, it's using the Bing web search service. So let me go to the code. Let me make that bigger. Is that visible way back there? Okay, I didn't hear a no. So I'm going to just kind of step through the root dialogue, because it'll set more context for what I'm showing you in the bot. And this is all C#, so if you're not a C# developer, I apologize in advance. But these are our intents that we've defined in Lewis. And then these are the monument names that we're specifically supporting for this demo project. So we have each of these Lewis intents has a task, a method for it, for the Lewis intent. So for example, for hello, it says hello to me, and it tells me about what it can do. And then when we ask about a monument, like I asked about the Eiffel Tower, it used Lewis to understand what I was saying. It didn't just take that text and go off and do a search. It took that and understood that entity and said, he's talking about the Eiffel Tower, which is one of the monuments that I know about. And now it understands and it knows that I'm the user talking about the Eiffel Tower. So there's other contexts that the bot can have. Like we could put in a lot more things and say things like, when was it built? And where is it? And how do I get there? And then we're still talking about the Eiffel Tower. So going down a little bit more. We are doing a Bing entity search service call. That's a cognitive service. That's how we find that picture and the Wikipedia text for the Eiffel Tower, for example, or for any of the monuments that we put in. We have the ability to get directions using the Bing Maps service. It's tied to the Las Vegas because that's where we were when we were giving this demo. It's kind of funny because Las Vegas to the Eiffel Tower is a really, really long walk. So when we took a picture of if you've ever been to Las Vegas, the Paris Las Vegas has an Eiffel Tower. And Luc took a picture of the Paris Eiffel Tower and used it in our model. So it's really cool. I'll show you that in just a bit. And then we have, thanks and no thanks for our text analytics and another intent for none. So let me show you what this bot can do. Okay, so I showed you that bit. Now what if I went to New York City and I took my own picture of Lady Liberty? So it tells me that's a picture of the Statue of Liberty. Now these pictures look similar, but they're not the same picture. Let's take a look at maybe the Eiffel Tower or the Space Needle. No, the Eiffel Tower, yeah. So this is the real Eiffel Tower in Paris. So it knows it's the Eiffel Tower. That's pretty cool. Well, those are photographs. What about a sketch? That's a sketch of the Eiffel Tower. Well, it knows that too. So it's using the Bing the computer vision cognitive service to figure out what that is. And we've also loaded the custom image service with other pictures that makes some other things pretty cool too. Just real quick, because I saw some people came in late, if you wanted to go to the Bing Maps talk, it's in International DF. Okay. So now I'm going to tell you a quick story. There's this picture at the Arc de Triomphe of a plaque. It's right underneath the Arc de Triomphe. And it's en français, so if you don't read French, maybe you're not gonna know what that is. If you took French in high school, you might remember that ici means here, and you could probably figure out that that's Jean Moulin, and he was a president. A means and. I mean, you can kind of piece together what it says. I think I recognize heroes and France. So actually, I could read French, but that's kind of funny. So I have this is an image that Luc took at the Arc de Triomphe. Now, if I put that image in my bot, I don't think it's a monument, I know. Okay, well, it's not really a monument. I think it's a sign on the outside of a building. And it's giving me that the tags are text, sign, outdoor, and plaque. There seems to be text on the photo. Let me try to read it. So there it is. That's the French that it took from the sign, from the plaque. There's a misspelling in here. So it's going to spell check it. So there is the spelling corrected français. So let's see it's even smarter now. I can't find the spelling error in it. Does anybody who speaks French see the spelling error? Okay. I'm amazed, and here's why. Because when we created this 3 months ago, the text came back from the OCR service with a spelling error. It was a word that wasn't in French. Now, in this demo, which I didn't even notice that, it doesn't do that anymore. It doesn't have the fake French word anymore. That's really interesting. So rather than be embarrassed about the demo not working because who cares about translation now, or spell check, that's pretty cool. I'm kind of excited about that. Well, most of you don't speak French, I assume. So now, there's some smoke and mirrors. My token expired. I do have the translated version here, which says, here lived Jean Mille, which is not quite correct, but close enough, because Moulin translates into mill. First president of the National Council of the Resistance, Lucien Legros, a high school student, which translated from a student of the high school Buffon, so Lycée Buffon, Death's a hero to the salvation of France. So while that's not exactly what it says, you can pretty much figure out that this is a monument to these two guys, one of which was a high school student. So what do you think of that? Is that cool? Thank you, sir. So in this spot, and I, by the way, I can share this. I'm going to open source this, this bot on the bot framework samples GitHub repository after I remove all the keys. So you can go out and get it and try it out and see what we're doing with all this stuff, because I could take up the entire 75 minutes just talking about the cognitive services and everything we do in here. So maybe I'll do that at build. Just real quick, I know that's a little small, but you can see that we're using the Bing Entity Search Service, Bing Maps, Cognitive Custom Vision, Spell Check, Text Analytics, Translator, and Vision. So text analytics, well, I didn't show you that. So if I go to my bot, say, thanks, it says, you're welcome. I could also say things like, I love you. Yeah, you're welcome. We have a default message. So I have text analytics hooked up, so I run stats. Oh, of course. I'll go over here and do it. Okay, well, almost perfect demo, almost. But it looks like my text analytics is not, it's not working properly. But basically what we have going on here is that when I tell the bot stats, the user of the bot is saying things like, thanks, that's great, or that's not helpful, or you're a waste of time, or you're stupid, or I love bots, or whatever. And the bot with text analytics is detecting the sentiment based on those things that people are saying. So it knows the difference between I love you and I hate you, or je t'aime and je ne t'aime pas. So with the stats, we can take a look at, and I talked a little bit about this in my other presentation, you can find out why people like or don't like your bot, which could come to things like their questions aren't being answered, or they're not getting the information that they're looking for, or they just don't like the fact that they're talking to AI despite what I said at the beginning of this talk. All kinds of things, and you can pipe those text analytics, the sentiment analysis, into App Insights or into other places, and get some really rich, deep intelligence about what people think of your bot and how they're using it. It can also track things and give sentiment from things like how many times they ask the same question. So it's pretty cool. I think the text analytics piece is really interesting. So that's pretty much it for that demo. I'll add one point. The other version of this bot was built with Q&A Maker. And what I did for that was, Q&A Maker is a cognitive service that has question and answer pairs. So if you can imagine an FAQ, like we have a Windows product key FAQ. And it says stuff like, where is my Windows product key? And here's an answer. And how do I get a Windows activation? And here's an answer. And it's huge. So we can ingest that FAQ from the Microsoft.com/Windows page into Q&A Maker, and then output a bot that consumes that FAQ. And the users can interact with the service that way. The Q&A Maker service also has Lewis in the back end, so it can figure out that when the user says, how do I activate Windows, is very similar to how do I get Windows activated. And so it creates kind of a rich FAQ experience. So what we could do with the Monuments bot that I have here is I could integrate the Q&A Maker version back into this and have it full of information that, like when was the Eiffel Tower built, I think it was 1888 or 1887. It was Gustav Eiffel, and all kinds of facts about the Eiffel Tower and various other monuments without having to go out and do all the searches for those things. So that's a cognitive service that is also really interesting that you can start with Q&A Maker and build a pretty powerful and amazing bot from there.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so What Robert showed us is pretty awesome. Great little bots that have some utility and function. But one of the things that me and my team have been really focused on in the last year is taking bots from really fun applications that we play with and that people can do, have some fun with, and there's a lot of fun to be had with bots. You can spin them up, and you can, have stock ticker bots and, bots that check the sports scores, and those come up pretty quickly. But what my team has really been focused on is how do we take all of this great technology and these components of this technology and build smart applications that are really focused at solving enterprise class business scenarios. So we really looked at this push of how do we bring this to our customer. So the first thing we did was we really wanted to look at what are the business scenarios. One of the most important tenets of bringing this technology really to life is having a real-world business problem to solve. So as we looked at our common business scenarios and in talking to our customers, absolutely number one is some sort of customer support features and functionality, whether it's consumer-facing, whether it's employee-facing, the ability to provide your employees and your customers quick access to easy information, self-service, where a human doesn't have to get involved, is across all industries, all verticals. It is the number one ask and the number one request for this kind of technology. A lot of interest in the retail space. We're going to obviously dive in that a little bit more today. Shopping assistance, again, customer support, finding product information, really enhancing and bringing that that retail shopping and customer experience to life. Similar functionality in insurance, where customer acquisition is a huge part of what they're looking for. How can I improve customer acquisition off my website experience? Can I make it easier to fill out claims forms? Can I make it easier to fill out forms for new insurance quotes? I want to help my potential customers get all the way through some of those transactions. Automotive, lots of cases around automotive. In this case, we're really just exploring what can be done with a bot in the car to get vehicle information, auto manual information. Obviously, Microsoft has a ton of automotive and connected car work that goes beyond this use case. But there is a really interesting use case in automotive for bots in a car that provide expert assistance to a consumer in the car. And then employee productivity. Can we make calendaring easier? Can we find conference rooms?
Well,
Go ahead.
The Microsoft Graph. So
yes.
Satya was talking about Microsoft Graph this morning, plugging your bot you're plugging into the Microsoft Graph to take advantage of all that it makes possible with its machine learning backed entity relationships between documents and people and places. That's really cool.
That's really cool stuff. So these are some of the common scenarios that we've been seeing. And we went through, I'm going to introduce you to Cami, which is a bot that we recently built for Dixon's car phone. And let's see if I can, there she is. So I've done a couple things to make my life a little easier here. This is the web experience with Cami. What you'll see is that there's a little bit more thought in some of our design considerations. Well, I don't know why we're doing that. Some of the things that we've discovered, it's really important that a bot help a user understand how to use it. Right? Robert did a great job of just plopping pictures into his bot, but if you didn't know what you were supposed to be doing with that bot, you'd probably pull it up and you're like, oh, okay, now what? Right?
That's why I'm here and you're not here by
That's
yourself.
right. That's why he's doing it and not me. But you notice the first thing that Cami does when you pull Cami is she introduces herself. It's clear in this case that we're dealing with some sort of a artificial or it's not a human experience. And then she gives you some clues on how to use her. You can shop from products. You can check stock in stores. You can create a wish list. Let's say, okay, I know what I want. And I know I've got a little bit of latency. So she says, okay, what product are you after? And so she's going to bring back some ideas, but she's also going to give me, a couple of the things you're seeing here, right, is the way we're presenting information back to the consumer. This is very usable. I've got carousel functionality, so I can scroll through a wide range of products that are coming directly from the product catalog. I can dive in, I can look for more information, I can buy now. Maybe my search range is too big. So Cammie's also saying, wow, there's a lot out there. Maybe just asking for a Microsoft laptop isn't enough. So maybe I should narrow in my range. And again, push button functionality, I can type in, I can push button. But when you think about how people interact with applications today, how the user experience, you don't want to be typing everything in, right? Typing is great, but it's nice to be able to push buttons. That's the way we use a lot of our apps today. So the same applies when we're building bots, right? We want to make this easy and accessible for users. So now Cammie's given me some laptops that meet my criteria that are in my selected price range. Maybe I've decided I've changed my mind. I don't want to buy a laptop. I want to buy a washing machine.
They're the same thing.
Right? Right, but now it's going to give me a more guided. So I don't know what I want. So now Cammie's going to walk me through and say, well, what are you looking for? There are lots of washing machines out here. So now she's got the capability off of a very random question for me to say, do I want a washer or dryer? Do I want just a straight washing machine? And she can guide me through now an experience to help me pick the product that I'm exactly looking for. If I'm interested about recycling, so you can see one of the things, I'm actually switching context on Cammie quite a bit here. And she's got a little bit of latency. Oh, I switched. And if I'm switching context on her, in the middle of a dialogue, she gets confused, but she's going to bring me back, right? She's going to say, okay, I'm in the middle of a question-answer tree. I need you to answer. So I'm going to give her an answer off of that. Maybe I broke her. Oh, and I'm not bothered. No, she's going through. So again, she's taking me through a step-by-step experience, and now she comes up and says, here's a list of options that you can have. I can click right through to buy my product that I selected. Maybe. I love demos.
Is that tied to your corporate Amex, or?
Yeah. This is on my, and at this point you can see that now I've switched out of my bot experience and I've gone straight to the website where I can buy. So this is showing some of our API integration and how we can take the experience from the online assistant all the way through to, I can add this to my wish list, I can go ahead and purchase right now. I can also look at stock and inventory in the store beyond the product catalog and ask for assistance directly from the bot. Wanting to show, I cheated a little on this next part, but what I've showed you in this demo is the web page integration, right? And we've talked about the various conversational canvases that we can enable. So Cammie will be up on Facebook. She's got this web channel interface. And there is also a Skype experience, which was a little slow today. So I preloaded the Skype experience so that we can just see that basically it's the same conversation, right? So now I'm in Skype. I'm still talking to Cammie, exactly who I was talking to before. And you can see that the experience with the card carousels, the way the information has been presented, the kinds of questions, the help, the buttons, the feature and functionality are all the same in Skype, they're the same in web, and they're going to be the same in Facebook. So that's showing that power of the conversational channels that our bot framework enables, and the develop once, enable multiple channels. This allows your consumers to reach you in the channel that they're most comfortable and familiar with, rather than having to maybe load a new app, yet another app on the phone, or say I can only. Oh, I lost you. Okay. So that is our Cammie bot. So our story with Dixon's was a little bit of a journey. Want to talk about how did we get from the basic out-of-the-box boxes to a CAMI experience, and what were the considerations that we and our customer brought to life in order to bring CAMI. So Dixon's Carphone, which is one of Europe's major electronic retailers, if you're not familiar with them, think about them as sort of Best Buy. They're kind of a Best Buy-like experience in the UK. They have multiple brands and stores in 11 countries. This experience is right now, just a UK-based experience. And they really are interested in improving the customer journey. They wanted to create a seamless in-home to in-store experience where customers can sit in their home, do research on products, find out information on everything from competitive analysis to prices on computers, prices on their equipment, be able to look that up, make decisions, and then walk into a store and purchase that. And they can even create scheduling with in-store associates in order to support them. So the whole idea of the journey is, how do I engage with my customer? How do I engage with them where they're most likely to be? And how do I make their transition into the store absolutely seamless? So we started this. I'm going to go through a little bit of the architecture because we've many components that come together in order to create the back end of this. So the first part we start with is our customer to bot. Robert talked to you about that in terms of using our bot framework and our bot connector service. So this is pretty standard out of the box. Basically what you saw Robert display is a lot of what the first part of this architecture is. We're going to figure out which channels we need. We're going to leverage our bot framework. And we're going to build a business model with Lewis that allows for some chit chat and also allows the bot to understand some of the specific terminology or intents that would be used in this situation. So when you think about Lewis in this business language model, this is where you can really start building the intent recognition that's specific to your industry and your scenarios. Chit chat is fun. Bots should be a little friendly, maybe have a little bit of a sense of humor, so there's usually a little bit of chit chat that you build in. But Lewis is where you start really getting the intent and the natural language understanding that's specific to your industry and your scenario. We enabled CAMI with a set of cognitive services. In this case, we use 4 of our core services. We've got Lewis, again, for natural language. Sentiment analysis, so we can track how the user's interaction with the bot is going. Do we need to have a human handoff? Spell check, because we always believe our consumers, our users of our technologies should not be punished if they can't spell or they fat finger, right? So spell check and Lewis are kind of core to all of the applications that we build at an enterprise level because it just makes it easy, right? We just want this to be easy for our consumers. And then a little extra, I guess the wow factor on CAMI is that we actually integrated computer vision with CAMI as well. So if you're standing at a store shelf and you see a picture of a placard, you can take a picture of that placard and it'll identify what the object is. You can look for the stock. So we do have computer vision in CAMI as well. So that's the core set of capabilities that we built in to say, how do we make a really great shopping experience? She's easy, she's usable, she understands you, she can take pictures of products or items on the shelves, and she can identify those, look for stock. Looking for stock, looking for knowledge and information. This is where we start leveraging some of the other areas of our Azure stack. So we leverage Azure Search to do 2 things. One, we can extend Azure Search against a knowledge base. In this case, they were using Dynamics, so we can extend that against a Dynamics backend, and that immediately gives us access for Azure Search to index that backend and pull back knowledge. So we're Robert mentioned Q&A Maker, which is a great cognitive service which allows you to do quick question-answer pairs. not all data is necessarily conformed in a way that Q&A Maker can make that seamless. And there's a lot of information you might want to find in your product catalogs or in your knowledge bases that isn't quite as neatly conformed. And that's where you can use something like leverage Azure Search to extend against those back-end systems, Excel spreadsheets, I mean, you name it, SQL databases, and Azure Search will now pull back the information. We also are leveraging that directly against their product catalog, and we're using some of the stock check API integration to pull that in. We do a load from their catalog files via a simple web job into the DocDB product catalog database that we've created, and this completes the solution for how we can find products. When Cami either gets to a point of negative sentiment or where she can't answer a question, one of the other key components of bot is failure state. Right? So bots are great, it's all about self-service, but what if they can't answer the question? Either I've come in, I've asked a question that isn't relevant to the bot, or maybe I'm just frustrated and I don't want to talk to a bot, I want to talk to a person. So we have a couple of handoff experiences. For Cami in particular, the handoff experience is via Facebook chat. So if you say talk to a human or help and I want to talk to a human, that will implement Facebook Messenger chat that then one of their Facebook chat agents will then get on and can work with the consumer directly via that mechanism. We also have a case management where you can have a case automatically logged into their case management system, and then a caseworker can go back and work that. So there are two different failure states for the bot that allow the consumer to still come up with an answer either directly by getting immediate assistance or by waiting for the case manager to get back to them. So again, in overall bot design, this is just one of the key components, is that when the bot can't answer a question, that the user isn't left just hanging. And the final component is basically telemetry of the bot. So one of the things that we've learned that's really important with bots is understanding how successful they're being. So we leverage application insights to build out some Power BI dashboards, and our application insights are capturing everything that's going on with the bot, the number of chat sessions that are coming in, people who are abandoning, people who are escalating. As we move through the experience, we can actually even see which questions people are asking and what they're failing on. So we actually had, I think it was at last year's Ignite, we had a bot here, and the first day of the conference, our architect, my coworker Darren, who built the bot, went in and looked at how the Ignite bot was working and what questions were working and how was the bot performing. And he noticed that at the end of the day, of the first day, there were a lot of questions to the Ignite bot about where people could go get a beer. Well, the bot didn't know anything about where to go get beers. But there were a lot of people at Ignite last year who were very interested in that. So he very quickly dropped in a Bing search API so that the next day the Ignite bot was able to answer general questions of knowledge about local restaurants and attractions and activities. So again, very easy to add knowledge, but application insights is what allowed him to go in and see exactly what questions the bot was being asked, what it wasn't being able to address quickly, and then create a solution for those questions. So we like to think that the bot telemetry really equals a very powerful piece of business insights for you. So that's the technology. Love the technology. But beyond the architecture, there are also several other considerations that we feel are really key to bot. And this is the design of the bot. We talked about solving real business problems. Good bot design and user experience are really critical to your success. Your bot should have a personality. You can't get away from having personality in your bot. And how your bot interacts with your consumers is a representation of your brand. You think about companies like Nike and Coca-Cola that have spent so much time and so much money building brand identity. Bot and this kind of experience is just one more way to bring your brand identity to your consumers or your employees. User experience, usability drives adoption, right? So we talked a little bit about this. Radio buttons, click-through, card carousels are all really important to the user experience so that people don't abandon the conversation. And bots should do more than answer questions. So knowledge is great. We love knowledge. But what you oftentimes see coming out of particularly these business scenarios is it's not just enough to get information. The information may be I'm looking for a product, or I want to know something about my order, or I'm looking for my credit balance, right? But now that I have that information, I probably want to do something with it, right? I want to pay my bill. I found a product I like, I want to buy it, right? We saw that with Cami. I can actually go through and not just find the product that I want, but I can actually complete my experience and I can now buy that product. That's part of the reason why the back-end systems integration is so key and important as part of our bot framework, is because this is where we're really driving the bot can complete tasks on the user's behalf. And telemetry equals business insights. So, what makes a bot great? Can I go one slide back? Because that's a great slide right there. Got it? You guys can download this too. This whole presentation is downloadable. So we talked about what makes a bot great. It's not how much AI it has. The AI is awesome. It makes it smart. It's fun to play with. It's not how sophisticated your language model is. That does allow your bot to talk some, but, and it's not about whether it uses voice, IVR integration, can I do voice to voice or voice to speech, and it's not really about your buttons and cards, but great bots are like any great app, and we've talked a little bit about that. They appeal to users because they do what you want them to do and they do it really well. So when you think about the apps that you use today, and when you think about the apps on your phone or the apps on your computer, the ones you go to time and time again are the ones that are giving you the information you want, and they're giving it to you quickly and it's relevant. For us, the approach we use to bring this forward is to make sure that we're capturing bot personality and really bringing a design methodology and a design-focused approach is inclusive design. So if you've never used inclusive design or design-led thinking, inclusive design is really about bringing empathy to the conversation and recognizing your biases. So it's a design methodology and approach that allows a group of people to come together and think about how do we build experiences that can include a greater scope of people. Yes, some of these considerations are things like for the hearing impaired or the sight impaired, or maybe someone who only has one arm. But one of my favorites is, well, there are lots of times in your life you might have one arm, or you might have a situation, a contextual situation, where you're not able to use an application in a certain way, right? If I'm driving my car, I'm not supposed to be texting. When I was a mother with 2 little kids, I very rarely had 2 hands to do anything, right? So those were contextual impairments that inclusive design can account for to help make your apps and your bots more extensible to a broader audience. Principles of inclusive design are to recognize exclusion. We recognize this when we recognize the biases, learn from diversity, and solve for one and extend to many. For Cami, for our design going in, we spent a full week, actually a little over a week, just focusing on the design of this bot. We didn't actually start talking much about the architecture or the cognitive services or all that cool stuff I talked about. That actually came at the end of our conversations, where we started with Cami to say, what's the experience we want to drive, is we spent a week, a little over a week in a workshop, sitting down, talking, running an inclusive design workshop. In-store observation, we went and we watched consumers in the store. We watched the customer service reps in the store. We talked to their brand and marketing folks. How do people talk to their customers, right? What are the elements that we're seeing? What are the product training manuals? All of this was a really important part of saying, what do we want the personality and the experience of this Cami bot to be? Again, technology and architecture came sort of at the end of the day. We had actually a similar experience with an insurance bot we just did, where in our inclusive design workshop, where we went going through, and again, we spent a full week just really going through what is this experience going to be. We're using the inclusive approach. We actually made conscious decisions to exclude certain audiences. We said that's not a target audience, not a target demographic. So there's purposeful exclusion. And I thought this was important just to pull in so that people don't say, when you think about inclusive design, it's about it has to be everyone. It's really about recognizing your biases and designing purposefully and meaningfully around that, right? It doesn't mean you eliminate it. It just means that you recognize it and make it part of your design decisions. It's perfectly reasonable to say you're going to, exclude a demographic and not design for it if it's not the target audience. Personality and brand. So again, your bot represents your brand. The elements of your brand, the personality. Our insurance bot has a very specific, unique voice that is specific to that organization. It is part of their branding. So think about when you're designing your bot that you are representing your brand to your users. What does your company what does the bot look like? Is it a cartoon avatar? Is it, is it a logo? Is it a 3D animated character? All of them are possible. All of them are important to think about what's that representation to your user. A name. All of our bots have names. You'll find that most of them are female names when you think about all the different bots out there. There is some research that suggests that in general users respond to female named applications. I don't quite understand it. But you notice that most bots do have a female name. But you want to have a name, and the name is obviously some representation of your brand. Think about, how does the bot sound? Does the bot have a hipster dude vibe? Does it have slang? Does it use a lot of emojis? Does it use a lot of, sort of millennial terms? Or is your bot maybe geared at wealth management type clients who are going to maybe expect a different level and tone of voice? That tone of voice that you build into your bot is representing, again, the personality and persona, not just of your bot, but of your organization. So you like to think about, how does your bot sound? Does it use cute little emojis? Not everybody likes emojis, but certainly you can if you want to. And then how do I ask for help? So does the bot just fail and say, it's, too bad I can't help you? Does the bot hand off to a human? Is that a chat integration? Is that an IVR integration? What does that help experience and that failure experience look like? For Cami, coming out of our workshop, and you can see we filled quite a whiteboard talking about their brand and their brand values in that presentation and the bot. They came up with some really cool stuff, right? We have an archetype for the bot. We think about, how does our bot, what are the cool things about the car phone itself? We've got, we're expert, we're enthusiastic, we're accessible, right? Cami should feel kind of like that big brother persona. So we've got this great archetype, this warm and comforting to you. And what are the things that we don't want it to do? So that's almost as important as what we do want it to do, right? How do we want Cami to feel as she's presenting information? Not too expensive, not overpowering, not overcomplicated. This should be a simple, straightforward, comforting experience. These were the things that were important as they built out their bot personality. And I think you sort of look at the demo, you can see a lot of that through in the ease of use of Cami herself. Personality, again, unavoidable. You're not going to build a bot and put it out there in the wild and not have some personality associated with it, whether you intended it or not. So it's probably best to be really intentional about your personality so people don't infer your bot. It can come from your wording choices. Again, we talked a little bit about that. Does your bot use slang? Is it an emoji-based bot, right? Media choices, manners, how does it respond? If a user types in a question, does the bot just sit there? Or does it give you a little cue, a little, dot, 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 or a little thing that just says, I'm thinking? Does it respond to you immediately, almost before the question's been answered? Or does it think? When you think about how we have conversations, it's a little bit more natural that there's a pause between a question and an answer, right? That's kind of how we conversationally expect ourselves to behave, and it's not too different to think that that's how we expect our bots to behave as well. So thinking about, is there a conscious pause that I'm building in, or because this technology is really fast, and technology can think faster than we can, is it answering our questions almost before we've asked them? Great, and there are no wrong answers. It's, again, just about conscious choices. Is your bot friendly? Definitely, bots should be friendly. I have yet to see a bot that is stern or, scolds a user. What's really important here is that when the bot, if you've built in sentiment, when the bot starts to sense a negative interaction, right, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Again, the same kind of conversational niceties that we build into our daily conversation, your bot needs to bring to life as well. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I understand you're frustrated. Can I get you a human? We have several bots that when they start seeing a negative sentiment expression will actually proactively offer, not just hook into a person, but proactively offer to get human assistance. And then if you have something kind of a more fun bot, a party bot, or maybe even an Ignite bot, maybe that can be a little more fun. Again, think about the difference of a bot that's doing something for a conference or a show versus something that's doing, your wealth management clients or insurance or healthcare. You're going to have a different personality you build in terms of the level of seriousness and the amount of fun that you allow a healthcare bot to probably display than you do a conference or a scheduling bot. Just a couple quick slides that show a little bit about bots with some charisma and personality. This bot's just saying, hey, the question is, I'm looking for some career choice. I think I want to be an industrial designer. And the bot's real friendly about it. Hey, thanks, that's a great question. Here's some great information for you. Follow-up questions. No, I have a bachelor's. Oh, that's great. Again, very enthusiastic little bot in this experience, right? Every time I give you an answer, the bot's giving me a positive thumbs up and giving me some more information. It's got a little personality. In this case, same kind of question, same experience. I want to be an industrial designer. I can't answer that. I need to know a little more information before I can answer that. Have you studied before? Yes. What's your degree? Again, all good questions. It's still getting the information it needs, right, to be able to drive the user to the same answer. But how it's representing it, how it's interacting with that user, very different experience in terms of the feel of this bot versus the bot that we had previously. And finally, personality, brand, inclusive design. That's the fun stuff. So inclusive design, that's how we really start looking at the design of your bot's personality and how we're going to really embody that bot to make it something that users want to come to, that's compelling for users to come to again and again and again. Bots that are interesting and functional but aren't compelling are probably going to fall by the wayside. So we are really looking for bots that have interesting use and compelling. But you can't get away from some of the just design dictates of, okay, so now that we've got our personality, we've got our brand, we've really thought about how this bot looks and feels and sounds, there are just some also straight design best practices that we have over the course of the last year and a half or so working with bots feel like are really important. That, they're just best practices. Input. Really thinking about how users are getting information into your bot. Keyboard usage on mobile devices, like how fast can you type? My kids are a lot faster than me. Swift key, it goes a lot faster. But typing in a lot of text, even with something like Swift, is one, very limiting. How many hands do I have? Is that convenient? And it gets pretty cumbersome, right? Once I get my first question in, I probably want to start thinking about being able to have more of a quick answer, push button type experience, right? And select my information back. Natural language support through something like Lewis, allowing for the bot to just work. I understand the intent of your question. Open the door, unlock the door, right? It's the same thing. I'm trying to get through the door. So allowing bots to just work through natural language processing and intent recognition. Maximize that to the best, the most that you can. The more natural language you can build in, again, the better conversational interface you'll have. Think about voice or text. We allow for both. We have cognitive services for both. So being able to talk to the bot, I don't know how many of you are familiar, use Cortana or use Siri on your cell phone. It can be a rather mixed experience that's getting better all the time for both. But voice input, and absolutely acceptable. And recognition is easier than recall. So really think about recall reduces the amount of keyboard usage that you need to use and minimizes the cognitive load. Just as important as how users get information into the bot is how you present it out. You saw Cami actually doesn't present a lot of text back, right? You're asking Cami questions, you get a sentence, maybe two back. There's a lot of card carousel functionality in that bot. She's a shopping retail assistant bot, so that makes sense. I'm interested in products. I don't want to see words about products. I want to see the products. But this card carousel functionality we see across a ton of experiences. We've got, if you go and you play with the Skyscanner bot, which is also built on our technologies, you can type in natural language. I want to fly from Orlando to Paris next Saturday, and Skyscanner will go out and find you flights from Orlando to Paris for next Saturday, and pulls up a card carousel of options to present back those flight options. So radio buttons, card carousels, pretty much everything you can do to avoid big walls of text coming back at your user. There are times you're going to do that. If you're doing something where you're troubleshooting a technical problem, you're probably going to have some walls of text, but even then you can break it up a little bit. And then just a quick show of how we build out, the kind of dashboards we build out in our telemetry so that you can see something about how your bot is performing against its intended usage. Understand your bot usage, monitor bot performance, and drive adoption. So that's pretty much it. These are our big lessons learned on designing bots. Design-led really makes for better adoption, better usability, brings your personality and your brand to life. Task completion is key, knowledge is great, but allow the bot to actually do something for your users on your users' behalf. Make sure you're recognizing that you're driving your brand. Maximize the use of Lewis and natural language. Leverage cards, buttons, carousels. Use Azure Search. I've already talked to a couple people in the booth. I will say one caveat about Lewis, and Lewis is great. And intent, building out the intent model, fantastic. We limit you or allow you, depending on how you want to look at it, to a maximum of 80 intents when you're building out your Lewis model. If you need more than 80 intents, you're probably need to start looking at using something like Azure Search, reduce the number of intents, and leverage Azure Search in order to get knowledge, because you don't want to have to manage a Lewis model with that number of intents. So think about ways to maximize your search and reduce the number of intents you have in Lewis. And then use of telemetry. And 10 minutes, 9.5 minutes, not bad. If there are any questions, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can you use the mic?
Yeah, anybody come to a microphone? I think there's a microphone right there.
I don't know if it works.
It does.
It does.
Do you have any recommendations on how to end the bot in a conversational bot scenario? Like the user is chatting with the bot and bot is awaiting the response and user doesn't give any response.
So that's a great question. So there are a couple, and that's really a business decision that you're going to make on how you want the bot to respond to a user. Not, do you want the bot to time out? Do you want the bot to come back and say, are you still there? Oftentimes what we see is after a defined period of time that you can set, the bot will usually ask, are you still there? Do you still need my help? And then it will end the session with no response. Other business scenarios I see, they actually maintain the state of the conversation, and when you come back, the bot picks it back up. So it's a business decision. I like having the bot nudge the user and then end and terminate, but that's my preference.
I'll add one quick bit to that.
Yeah.
With the bot framework documentation bot that we're shipping later this year, we want to make sure that you're getting what you need. So, for example, if you ask about something and you're going off and reading it, the bot's waiting for you to come back and tell you, or tell the bot, I got what I needed or I didn't, or ask a follow-up question. So the bot will say, for example, did you get what you needed? And yes is going to be a positive response, and no is a negative response. So it'll ask a follow-up question, and it maintains the state about what you've already asked about to try to maybe go a little bit deeper. But then when the user basically abandons the bot doesn't, oh, am I still, there we go. The bot doesn't still keep asking them. It just figures that with no more input, there's nothing else to say. But, and then one other point to add to that with customer service bots that do handoff to humans, the bot should typically say, did you get what you needed? And the person says yes, and then the bot will end the conversation. If the person says no and it doesn't know what else to do, it should hand off to a person.
The user answers the bot, but the user answers wrongly and he wants to again input the right answer. So that would be another similar scenario.
Yeah, come see me in the booth. We'll talk a lot about that.
Okay. I don't know who was next.
I think that guy was.
Okay.
At Build, I think you had a session on adaptive cards.
Yep.
And then it seems to have like sort of tapered off. Or I'm not sure if it has gone live or
Yes.
because we sort of having issues trying to get the adaptive cards working with our bot.
So the first part of your question, adaptive cards is alive and well. We've shipped
Yes.
documentation, great documentation for it. That's in the same, it's co-located with the bot framework docs. If you have, you can come by the booth and I'll help you with your adaptive cards question. But we're adaptive cards, Microsoft is investing in that across the board, not just for bots. So
What channel are you using for your bot?
Well, we have Skype and Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I'm not sure if our Facebook Messenger is
Well,
live.
come see us in the booth.
Yeah, come see us in the booth, because if you're using Skype or Skype for Business and Facebook Messenger, adaptive cards are, we should talk about that. Those are two tricky channels.
Yeah.
Which booth are you in?
Oh, in the expo over in the...
Microsoft, you'll
South
find us in
building.
the AI and bot framework.
It says data and AI at the top.
Yep.
Yep.
How do we project and estimate Azure costs? There's a lot of services being used, and so it's great to play with. But if we're successful and we want to scale the business, is there any kind of way we can model it and then run through calculators to say this is what the rough traffic costs would be before the bill comes, or?
You can do that with the Azure services right now. For all of the ones that are in GA,
GA, you can.
That have, yes, for the cognitive services that are in GA, you can that charge, you can use a pricing calculator. Ditto for like Azure Functions, Azure Search, and the other Azure services, so that you can get an idea of what your total consumption bill is going to be.
Because I haven't seen one that would be, based on the consumption from a bot.
Well, it's a lot more specific than that.
Right.
And for this, go ahead, Sue.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, so Your consumption from a bot is going to be based on which cognitive services did you layer in, right? And each of our cognitive services are priced a little differently.
Yeah.
I can actually help you with some of that. We do have some models that we put together for some of our customers to help, and I'd be happy to work with you off that offline, because there's also the level of what is a call, right? Lewis, I think you get up to the first 10,000 calls for free, but the call is actually recognizing the intent. So once I've recognized the intent, and I may still be going back and forth on several questions within that intent, it was still just one call. It's not 6 calls until you switch intents, right?
You're done.
You're done, that's it.
Come see us in the booth. Come see us in the booth. We'll spend
I'll be
lots of
happy
time
to
with
spend
you.
some time with you on that.
Just a couple of different models, like small, medium, and large, or rich, simple, whatever.
Yep.
Those would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to have the same scenario, but if you had like all channels with voice and
Yeah.
Right,
that would be
That's a good point.
helpful for us.
that would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come see us in the booth. We'd love to talk about that.
Sir?
Is Conversation Designer a Q417 or a Q418 delivery?
Are you talking fiscal years or calendar years? But Conversation Designer will go into preview when Bot Framework goes GA, which is in this fall.
Great. And a follow-up, is there anything on the roadmap for any sort of direct integrations to Dynamics?
So.
Not on the Bot Framework. So my answer, and then you can give yours because they're going to be different.
They are different.
From the Bot Framework point of view, no, because the Bot Framework is, we don't out of the box have integrations with other services like that. But
So that being said, so we can integrate with Dynamics seamlessly through the API, but Dynamics
Microsoft Graph,
but Dynamics is building out some integrated bot services, and with CafeX, the live agent handoff functionality, and that
USD 3.0 and
yeah
2.2.2,
Yeah.
I think.
yeah. So that part of it is coming. Yeah.
that's why the two of us are here. You were next, I believe.
All right. First off, I love the bot framework and the cognitive services integration. It's super easy.
First the
It's
alcohol,
been
then the
great.
knife.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the knife's coming.
Nice try.
So I've been tasked to do some enterprise development with bots just for our company, nothing public. And one of the requests was, let's use Cortana. And that as a
Great.
channel is banned from accessing this stuff. And I was wondering why and if it will ever get unbanned.
Well, I really, really hate to deflect,
Okay.
but I have to because I don't know or I don't work up with Cortana.
So how are
But-
you thinking about leveraging Cortana as just one of your channels?
Well, for instance, we're also part of like the calendar.help preview.
Right. So Cortana is a channel, is a supported channel to the bot framework or to the bot. So you can integrate a Cortana skill into your bot so that you can say, hey, Cortana, change my address.
Unless it's an internal enterprise application.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that part.
you should
Yeah.
come to the booths. That's not my. I will be there. I'm not just saying that and then not showing up. That'd be really funny though, or at least Gary will be there. I think there's a Cortana booth, isn't there? There's a
should
guy
be.
talking about Cortana skills. So you can talk to the Cortana booth, and we can kind of have a little conversation. There's some
Nuances.
intricacies there. Yeah.
Can I bring you with me to the Cortana booth? Get some extra help.
Sure, if you can.
If I can bring him to Orlando, you can bring him to the Cortana.
Yeah, I was on vacation when I was told I was going to come speak in Orlando.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question regarding to the authentication piece. So, I mean, I was working on, we are a financial institution, so I was working on a board where, I don't want to write the username passwords in the chat channel. So it was opening like a separate application where, user enters username, password, and all the details regarding to, authentication purpose. Now, after they enter those details, it gives like authentication, kind of an ID back. How to pass that back and forth to the board channel.
So that's another Expo booth question because it would take quite a bit of time to talk about that, but we'd be happy to help with that. That's a very common question. So come see us in the
And
booth.
we have some stuff on GitHub for that,
We do,
right?
yeah. I'll point
do.
you to all kinds of resources and such for sure.
Yeah, because you're right, you don't want to type it in.
Yeah. So I think we're over,
Go
but
ahead.
if your question's quick, go ahead.
Might be. So obviously part of this is training it. So you have questions that weren't answered or answered improperly, and so then you want feedback and better answers. So imagine your developers are making this, but then you have business experts, subject matter experts. What is that maintenance experience like in places that have been successful? So for example, let's say it's an FAQ or answer me questions. What's that feedback loop like? Like if I was giving this to someone who's an SME, what's their experience? Are they going into the Azure portal? Are they giving like an Excel spreadsheet? Like
It depends on what you've implemented in terms of that. I'll just go with a really simple, super simple is you've got a case management system or a ticketing system like ServiceNow or Dynamics Case Management that your SMEs are already very comfortable using, right? So they go in and they see that the bot has come up and not been able to answer a question, either because someone's actually logged a case or they've been reviewing and seeing the bot doesn't know where Ignite bars are. They can just go into that case management system and upload the information as a just knowledge-based management, and then the bot has the access to the information as soon as it's loaded.
And for Q&A Maker, you can import a spreadsheet into Q&A Maker, and so if you had a spreadsheet that has multi-user edit in SharePoint or something like that, the business analysts are filling out the FAQ pairs, and then they're on some kind of schedule on demand or something, that's uploaded to Q&A Maker, and Q&A Maker is retrained.
Several options, but
Yeah, a whole
basically your
bunch.
business SMEs can get that information in pretty quickly.
is that relationship to ServiceNow formal, or is that just like one way you can do it? Like for example, do you have a ServiceNow connector, or is it just more like that supports it?
We support it. We've done several bots, again, just leveraging the native API integration, and yes, we can open cases, we can pull back information, yes.
So thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.